Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashaye. Our special guest today is none other than Dotun Adekanmbi, who is the author of a very gripping biography of a capital personality in Nigerian business and communication, Dotun Adekanmbi. It was an interesting thing how he left. Nasruddin was a very pivotal personality in his career move, yes. In his life, you would say. Yes. Can you give us an insight into that?
No,
Nasruddin was the owner of.
No,
was the son of the owner of NASCO.
Yes.
He's very based in Plateau State that time.
Yeah, in Jos.
In Jos, yeah.
The thing about the agency business is this: when a good client service man delivers on promise, there is that affinity between the client interface and the agency interface. So from that, some kind of friendship developed. So it was both personal and professional. But when he noticed that when Nasruddin noticed that something was not quite right with his friend, he just offered him a piece of advice as a friend, just as I would do to you if I feel that something is not really happening right.
Yes.
And it was now up to Shobanjo to decide whether he wanted to think about it or not think about it. And he was with his account executive then, Jimmy Awoshika, who now is his really right-hand man.
Yeah.
And when they left Nasruddin's office,
Awoshika was trying to prod him.
Awoshika was trying to prod him
and
to know what.
Trying to say,
and he said, no, don't let us even go there.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, the thing had not even crystallized.
Yeah.
He didn't even know how to respond to it at that stage. So, but what you find is that Awoshika too is a lot perceptive. Intuitive, yes. And so he was able to read maybe a little beyond what his boss was able to see at that point in time.
Where his boss's mind was going.
So he watered that idea.
Path, yes.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
It's history. But it was not that easy when they started inside. Eh?
No business venture is ever easy. There is never a good time to start out. But he had a lot of help from NASCO. Not at the initial stage. Not at the initial stage.
They wanted him to stand, to show that he knew where he was going.
Because Nasruddin told him that if he wanted the business, he had to fight for it. And that was precisely what happened. He fought for it.
And Awoshika's mother, tell us about Awoshika's mother's input into it. An interesting story.
Well, the Awoshika bit of it, when I heard the story, it was really, really moving. Because you find a situation where Shobanjo is the big masquerade.
Yes.
Awoshika was the younger man trying to get into the organization.
A kind of mentee.
Yes. But it didn't, by the time, Professor Alfred Okubo was one of the people that recommended Awoshika to Shobanjo. They told him to see him. And by the time they met, there was this kind of chemistry that was immediately, that brought them together. Such that even today, so many years after, if one throws the ball, the other one knows where it's going to land. Yeah. So that's the nature of the... And when I asked Awoshika, in this age, a lot of people will say, oh, I've paid my dues in this agency. I think it's time for me to do my own thing and all of that. When I asked Awoshika, what is the staying power? Why are you still here? He said to me, look, I'm serving a life sentence here. That is at Insight. Now, looking at his mother's bit, his mother, after Shobanjo took Awoshika in, his mother came there from the narrative to say, look, do not take this young man as an employee. Take him as your younger brother. And the man gave her his word that he will do exactly that. And that is what has been happening. And a lot of the time, you know, young men, exuberance and all of that, the mother will always weigh in, chill, do this, do that, do that. And when they were experiencing some financial moments, difficult moments, there was a day Awoshika went to meet his mother and said, look, they need to pay salaries and they don't have a dime and all of that, all of that. And the mother said, okay, no problem, meet me at home. Awoshika went home. The money was on the table, but his mother was dead. So that again solidified the relationship. Dead. The mother was dead, but the money was there. So it was a kind of sacrifice.
Well, I think she gave her life for her son.
In a way, that could be that would
have been a lot of pressure on Shobanjo too.
To perform well.
We have to turn this thing into something.
Yeah, sure. Because the point is that whilst they were waging all of that battle, as it were, the industry was also looking at them and like, who are these upstarts? Because they say when you are a challenger, when you are starting out, you have to work from a challenger's mentality. And a challenger does not necessarily pay respect.
So it doesn't respect anybody.
So they knocked on any door. They did everything that they needed to do just to get.
And they really dealt with his former company. It's like cutting the head of your father. What they did to Grant.
They didn't.
Well, some of the staff went.
They didn't strictly speaking do.
Some of their staff left Grant and went with him.
Well, at some point.
And some of them were some of their best actually.
Well, the point is that all of these people that decided to go with him, they had some things to offer. And then they saw in him that thing about a good leader who could read the map very well. And they were ready to try their luck. They believed in him.
It's just like Nixon's definition of a tough leader. He said a good leader is a leader who can make tough decisions and carry his associates along with him on those tough decisions. And it tended to be like that. Yes,
because over time, in the course of working with Shobanjo from Grant, they had learned to trust his judgment. That, okay, and because I also worked in the group for some time, I knew how that got to be. Shobanjo will always be the last person to speak on an issue. Because you know the mentality, when there is a meeting and the boss is there, everybody wants to listen to the boss. So if the boss, ab initio, says, we are going to the left, everybody will start
thinking that way.
So he will always listen and hear everybody out. Once you have had your say, then he will weigh in on what he feels should be. And for every position he takes, he offers a because. We have to do this because of this, because of that. If you have reason to disagree with him, you can tell him, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I think this is, and you will argue it out until you have what is the solution. Because, as they say, your way, my way, and then the third way. So, and the third way is always better. So, what he does, they had come to believe so much in his leadership. So they went with him.
Then tell me some of the innovations he brought into advertising.
Well,
it brought some, especially some of the well-known adverts that especially broadcast adverts that we saw in those days.
Well, the thing that most people readily acknowledge is the fact that they are creative. They indigenized. They speak to issues that you readily associate with. And then, but of course, that also had its own downside because the rate at which they were going with some of these creative materials, people now, Insight was the first Nigerian agency to secure what I called a non-biological affiliation. Others, like Lintas, had the Unilever backup, the others had their own. But Insight searched for its own. So people were now saying that, oh, they couldn't have really done it. It was because these foreign partners were helping and all of them. And they came out with some very nice adverts back in those days. Angia's, Baby, No, not First Bank.
Not First
They
Bank.
didn't do the First
I
Bank.
thought that they did that.
No. There was, when they said something about pricing. You know, pricing is always one of the key areas where people say, they said in one of their copy that once you've tried Excedrin, that was the leader then, that once you've tried Excedrin, you will know why it is priced the way it is. So for the beer and all of that. These things were
I want to list by the time, by 1989, I want to list some of them, CAPL Industries, the War Automobiles, the United Food Industries, Defcon Merchant Bank, Equatorial Trust Bank, Femina Hygienica Products, Fountain Trust Merchant Bank, Ledrop Export, Lever Brothers, Middle East Airlines, NASCO Foods, NASCO Management Services, Nestle Foods, Nikon, Nigerian Tobacco Company, Nigerian Bag, MFG Baco Super Sack. That one, they did that one.
Yeah.
That wonderful advert. Peugeot Automobiles, Royal United, 7-Up Bottling Company, SIO Motors, Soft Solutions, Solar Tech, Sonap Breweries, Texaco, Wamco.
Yeah.
Wonderful lineup of clients.
A-grade clients.
A-grade, A-level clients.
Because when he started out, he wasn't ready to be a beats player.
He didn't want
He wanted to play in the top league. And you know, you cannot play in the top league if you are not good.
Yes.
And then if you look at the dates for which some of those clients came into the agency,
yes,
they had stayed for so long. I think Lintas is the agency that has had the longest stay on a business more than Insight. When they handled Star. Lintas started to handle Star, I think, in 1928.
Wow.
And then until some things happened much later.
And they also had Top, is it Top Beer?
No, that was Grant.
Grant, okay.
Because Top Beer was manufactured by the owner of Grant.
All right. And there was also the fact that people accused Shobanjo of being unorthodox. And sometimes they thought that he was bending the rules. And some people didn't like him in the industry for that. Like, who's this upstart trying to change the way we do business?
The point to make is this. There is no manner of crime that has not been ascribed to him. But the thing is, you need to understand where he's coming from to be able to understand why he does the things that he does and that way. He said something during the 10th anniversary. He said, if you do not understand the dream, you cannot act the dream. He started out wanting to play in the big league, and he went after those companies that could help him to achieve that ambition. And you know, I said something earlier that when you are coming into the market, you don't have the luxury that incumbents have. So you have to come in the
mode
of a challenger. You have to be bullish about it. And that was what he did. But the thing is, the moment he was able to stabilize the agency, one of the first things that they did was to quickly regularize their membership with the association's body. That was the then AAPN, now AAAN. You know, because for any industry to be well put together, there has to be rules and all of that. But the sins, so-called, that he knocked on every door when he wasn't a member, some people did not forgive him of that. So
he knocked on doors that they believe belong to somebody else.
Yes, you find it's so interesting that
that's like a cutthroat competition.
Yes, one of the agencies that existed back then, during their 10th anniversary, they made a song and dance of, all the businesses that are available have been taken over by the top 3 foreign agencies, Lintas, OBM, Grant. And they were bemoaning their fate. Like, they were helpless. Look, we can't proceed beyond this point because the market is already spoken for. But he came in and he said, nobody has the birthright to take those positions. And he decided to challenge them. And the market rewarded him because he brought new things into the market.
So it's not just sufficient for you to challenge, but you must have a differentiating
I will tell you this. In the book, you will find that they started trying to work for Nigerian breweries. They prospected Nigerian breweries for about 20 years before they eventually got the account. And when they eventually, what they did before they eventually got Nigerian breweries was that because they knew they were targeting Nigerian breweries, they went to work for some smaller breweries. So that gave them a lot of advantage in terms of understanding the industry. When they were eventually invited to pitch for Nigerian breweries, it was something else. Because they routed the incumbents, and I think it was only Lintas that retained Star and Maltina. Insight took every other thing, including the corporate. And one of the people who sat in on the pitch that judged the presentations did say that Insight brought new thinking into their marketing, that the people at the breweries saw that, no, these people understand our market, they know where we are headed, it's better we go along with them.
Now, you started having international partners too.
Yes.
And big ones.
Yes.
And that ones also became controversial.
Yes. Yes. The first one was not controversial. That's the affiliation with Bates.
Bates. That's Grey.
But no, with Bates.
Yes.
That one was not controversial. But before they got Bates, they had to go through a lineup of close to 10 or so foreign affiliates before Bates said, okay, we'll do business with you. And the reason that they were reluctant to come to Nigeria then was that the market was too unstructured. But Bates decided to go with them. When it was time, because of some business decisions, then the issue of Grey came in. The way it was like two partners in separate marriages who eventually found themselves. And what made it a little difficult then for Shobanjo was that he was the president of the AAA. So it was like, how will it sound for the president to now take his members' affiliate? But the point is that it was child of circumstance. The thing happened the way it happened.
But it was not pretty.
It wasn't pretty. There was a lot of problem there, because the other agency felt that, oh, this person has muzzled in and we're going to resist it. Court actions were threatened, all of that. But eventually they were sorted out. And
it's very interesting that he even became president, because there are some people who saw in that this is an outsider. He cannot become president of this organization.
They thought that he could, because a lot of, at that point in time, there are so many years that had intervening years. Now, a lot of people didn't understand how he operated. So they felt that, this man that has been behaving this way, you now give him the presidency, he's going to be a bully to everybody. But, he lost the presidential election the first time by just one vote. And by the time he won, he also won by one vote. As people have said, it is just to show that in the business, nobody is ready to say, oh, it is your
right.
Ready
to concede to you.
No, you have to earn it. And at that point that he became president, people felt he had earned it. And what did he do? He did what they did not think he was going to do. He was not the kind of bully president that they thought
he expected him to be. Maybe because he expected that people wanted him to be a bully. I said, okay, I will show to you that
I'm not. Because that is his own DNA. He does things the way
his own way.
Yes. And
it appears to some others as brushing past other people.
Exactly. But the point is that if it is the right thing to do, he will do it. And tough decisions don't usually come easy. People will bellyache and all of this and that. But at the end of the day, they will see reason. And by virtue of his presidency, the AAAM got that piece of land at the Central Business District. But he was not the one that built it. But
he laid the foundation.
He made sure that the land was secured, everything and all of that. And then others. Because it had been an ongoing discussion. Different presidents from Ayo Woborode, Akin Odunsi, everybody had been saying that this was what they needed to be able to push the industry forward.
Now, there's this significant event that happened. This interview will not be complete unless we discuss it.
Which one?
The shooting.
Oh. You know, because of his profile at that time,
yes,
everybody believed that he was kind of awash with money.
Yes.
And you know the way these rascals behave, they felt that, okay, let us have our own share of the national cake, as it were, in their own perception. And they called him and said that he should get 100,000 naira ready. That when they call,
which was a lot of money.
A lot of money in 1990, I think that was 1992.
Yeah.
No? And it was like, 100,000 just because you are asking me? Who are you to make this kind of request to me? And he felt that no, he wasn't going to do it. So he was at home with the children when these people came. His wife was out of town, but she was supposed to arrive that, I think, the following day, early morning the following day. And then about midnight or about 3 a.m., these people came. And then, because he had a shotgun, licensed, when they started to fire, he responded from inside. And the thing went on and on and on and on. They couldn't get him. They injured his guard, but they couldn't get him. And then, by the time there was a lull, the hoodlums had left. But the police came. He was inside.
Thinking that
he didn't know that they had left.
Yes.
The police that came didn't know that he was the one inside.
Yes.
So they started to exchange until about 7 a.m.
Yes.
When they now know that, there was a comedy of near tragic proportion.
Terrible.
And all of that. But the good thing that came out of that experience was that it led him to establish Halogen Security, which is today #1 in security services in Nigeria.
Yes. Yeah, there's also a tragic story about Halogen. This is a person who was killed or something like that.
No, that was for optimum exposure.
Optimal exposure,
Those were also things that even the police are not
been able
forthcoming. And the truth, when you situate them based on what the newspapers reported, based on what is known, and based on what the police said happened, they don't cohere. So the police were saying something different. And those were some of the things that really happened, and unfortunately.
Chobanjo retired at the age of 60, and you said at the beginning of the book that the problem with Nigerian gurus in that field is that they retired early, while their counterparts soared up to their 70s and 80s.
Yes. And that became a contradiction in terms. Because he had always said, why would this one go down? And then he did the same thing.
Early.
And the former MD of Lintas, Mr. Chris Doguje, pointed this out to him. Now
see what you have done too.
But the point is this. He decided to take that decision because he felt comfortable with the fact that the organization had achieved that level where it can virtually be on autopilot. So now relinquishing it to younger hands, because whether we like it or not, the industry is now undergoing a different kind of phase. It's for the youngsters.
Globalization, the new technology,
everything.
And the new
culture. That was part of what went into the latest partnership that he went into with Publicis Group.
Okay, yes.
Which is one of the top 5 global networks. That was because he looked beyond the present. For him, ordinarily, thinking like a typical businessman, all he needed to do was, okay, let's go to the stock exchange and sell shares.
Yes.
And the thing will probably be oversubscribed. But he said no. By the time you do that, a lot of things will be out of place. You will lose some measure of control, but he was thinking of the future. And that future for him was that there must be that entity that will continue to project his name and his dream and that of his co-founders so that they're able to do great things. And that was the first time that kind of thing happened in that industry in Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much. The book is The Will to Win, the story of Biodun Shobanjo by Dotun Adekanmbi, who actually was my classmate at Ife. Thank you very much and congratulations on this book.
Thank you so much, Sam.
I commend this book for everybody to read. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now my poem on Leah Sharibu.
He gave you keys if you hated his bed, a shade when you sought the garden bloom, a prayer but you won't say amen. He thinks himself a favor, you taste no flavor. Lear, when the father of your kids faces judges and his fate hangs on your lips, will you forgive?
Thank you for watching the program. You can join me on my column with www.samomashaye.com. And until next time, be good.